Hi everyone, I thought I would give you guys a tutorial on how I do Wendy from Gypsy Soul Tribe's Whisper, and this one I actually did a little bit differently than what she does. So this is called a Whisper with a Twist. The Whisper with a Twist idea I got from Jamie from Rocky Morning Boutique, but then I'm adding my own little extra twist to it, as you'll see here in a second. So right now I'm applying 20 ml of epoxy onto my cup, and in it I have mixed in Better Call Saul secret sauce from Nikki's secret sauce from Mr. Fancy Pants. So I'm making sure my cup is nice and covered with the epoxy and all smoothed out before I move on to the next step. And then normally when you do a whisper, you will actually, the next step would be to lay drops of black alcohol ink on there. And I am doing a reverse whisper with a twist. And so instead of doing the black alcohol ink, as you'll see here in a moment, I will be applying white alcohol ink instead. And you'll see that I'm taking a moment to get on in here to do the white. I end up having to get a needle to put down in my alcohol ink bottle because my white ink got clogged up. So I am just watching the cup spin for a minute while I'm troubleshooting that. And then as soon as I get back in here, you'll see that I'm applying the ink. This is where you see I'm having issues with the ink not coming out of the bottle. So I am going over to another section of my workroom and grabbing a sewing needle, and I'm sticking it down into the tip of the bottle to loosen up that clog of alcohol ink. And then I'll be back in a second to apply the white alcohol drops to the cup. And it's taking us a moment to get back. And you can see I'm on my way back. And then here we go. So I'm applying my white alcohol ink. And I'm doing it horizontally down the cup. So this is the twist part of the whisper that Jamie from Rocky Morning Boutique does. So I'm switching directions and I'm doing a second layer of alcohol ink. And now I'm grabbing my first pigment that's mixed in epoxy, and I used Bosman from Mr. Fancy Pants, and I also have in there mixed in with it their purple glow cane powder, so that hopefully this cup will glow with UV light. So now you see I'm outlining the white alcohol ink with the Bosman mixed in epoxy, and I'm doing both sides of the white. I do this a couple times to make sure I have a nice thick border before moving on to my pigments that I'm going to be putting inside and on top of the white alcohol. Don't mind the background noise. Both my kids are either watching a TV show or playing with blocks. If you hear that noise, that's my kiddos. Alright, so this first one that is getting mixed in here is Gadot from Mr. Fancy Pants. And I'm drizzling it all on top of the cup. And I'm sorry, this is not Gadot. This is Marshall, which is a super chameleon pigment from Mr. Fancy Pants that I am applying on top. So I went ahead and did my darker pigment first. And then after I get done with Marshall here, then I'll be applying Gadot mixed in epoxy, and that's our second pigment. And it's also a super chameleon pigment from Mr. Fancy Pants. So now I'm going in with Gadot, and I'm just doing the same thing that I did with Marshall. I'm just drizzling it all across the top of the white. So I'm getting, and I used about 10 ml of each. And now I'm going in, I had 15 ml of the black mixed up, and now I'm just going in and I'm swirling on top of everything else. So when Wendy does her whisper, She would normally do white alcohol ink mixed in with epoxy for this part, but since I'm doing a reverse whisper, I did black instead. And this is Piñata's Manita Black that I'm using. So now I will apply my heat gun and get that epoxy and those pigments moving to form the pattern that I want. And you can start seeing the epoxy just starting to move, and now I'm using my heat gun to get the direction of movement that I want. And then here in a second, once I have it heated up to the point that I want, I will start tipping the cup up and down to get more movement. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to tip it. And this will get more of that movement that I'm wanting for this whisper. Now, when I did this whisper, it kind of overtook more of the cup than what I was originally planning on. But the end result is still super pretty, and I'm really happy with how this one came out. So now I'm just slowly tipping it down. You don't want to do fast movements on this. You want to do gradual tipping on it. And I'm just kind of leaving it tipped for a minute while I apply some more of the Gadot and Marshall pigments. I'm just kind of doing random drizzles all over the cup, not really having a pattern in mind when I do it. Just adding some of the extra color on top. Just using up the last of my pigments for this. And then once I get this all done, I'll start tipping my cup again to get some other extra movement, especially at the top. Okay, so now I'm getting ready to tip it again. I'm just kind of watching it to see if there's any pulling or swirling in sections that I don't want, to see where I can use the tilt and the changing of the directions of the turner to get the movement that I want. So I'm just tightening it up and then applying my torch to pop any bubbles. I didn't really have a whole lot, but I just wanted to make sure that if I did have any bubbles, I got them popped before it set up too much where I couldn't do it. Now I'm just kind of letting it spin for a second, just kind of settle and see what I want to do with it. And you'll be able to see in a minute, I'm going to pick up my horseshoe pigment that I use, the Bosman, and I'm just going to start following some of the patterns on the cup and adding some extra dimension of the purple on top of everything else. And like I said, this purple is supposed to have, it does have the intense purple glow cane in it. So hopefully once it gets to be darker tonight, I can use my UV light and see if it actually works or not. Excuse me, sorry guys. It's been a long day and I'm all of a sudden sitting down for 5 minutes, so now I'm starting to yawn. But yeah, I'm just going in and I'm just letting the epoxy drizzle and to follow some of these patterns that are in the cup from the white and everything, just to get some extra dimension to it. Kind of like what I would do with the secret sauce for like on a waymaker or something like that. Just adding that extra dimension. And I think we're just about done. I'm just kind of letting this sit now to see if there's anything else I want to do. And I saw a couple more spots where I kind of want to add a little bit more of that Bosman, just to add a little bit more extra dimension to the cup. And just kind of letting things settle to see what I want to do with it. But we're pretty much done with my cup, so here in a second you'll see I'll bring down my camera and give you a close-up look of the cup. So now I'm just kind of trying to see if I can activate that glow cane a little bit, but obviously it's a little bit too light out right now still at my house, and not going to really be able to see much at the moment. But I was trying to see what I could, if it would activate it at all a little bit, even though it wasn't dark. And now we're going to give you a close-up of the cup. So we'll start out with the butt and just give you that close-up look of the cup. I'm really happy with how this came out. I mean, it wasn't quite what I was envisioning in my head, but it's still a really pretty cup, and this is what I would call a reverse whisper with a twist. And I tried giving you a good side view, but my arm was creating a shadow, so I'm switching sides here. So I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial, and I will try to do some more later.